Welcome back to another episode of Labstream AI, where we explore innovations shaping the future of technology and leadership. I'm your host, Mayrak Hamza, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by someone who's lived at the intersection of world-class gaming and product innovation and AI integration. James Radcliffe has led global teams at Rockstar Games, Electronic Arts, launching his platforms like GTA's V Social Club and Zero A-Class Issues, and pioneering AI-driven process improvements that have set new industry benchmarks. James isn't just a seasoned technologist, he's somebody who deeply understands how to align strategy, quality, and tech to build not just great products, but great teams. James, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is great. James, before we jump in, I'd love for our listeners to hear it straight from you. Can you introduce yourself and share a bit about what drives your work in AI and product leadership?
My name is James Rackliffe. I've been in industry tech and, like I said, largely the gaming space, like you mentioned, for the large part of over 20 years. But more recently, I got started my startup out here in Central Florida, largely to help my friends that I have locally out here in the construction business, namely, and work specifically with small business owners. As someone from the tech space, you see all of the integrations and the movements with where AI and tech is going, and you see automations happening, and you go, wow, like we have the budget to do this stuff at this level. But then you have a lot of friends that are blue collar guys or small business owners, and it's like they don't move at that speed and stuff. And so I started my company really with the goal and the observation of like, hey, who's going to look out for the everyday person that has a business that wants to succeed and wants to have these same tools and capabilities, but they don't have the budget to pay those things. And so therefore Nimblo was born.
That's awesome. No, I love that. I'm all about leveling the playing field and giving access to, the smaller guy who doesn't really know how to get there or what to do. And so that's really cool to do that. So, you've worked on some massive high stake launches like GTA's V Social Club. What were some of the biggest product or team challenges you faced at that scale?
I mean, I in the tech space is all you, whether it's EA or Rockstar, any of these companies. Like your biggest tech scale that you normally have to deal with is you're dealing with a massive project that obviously already has a huge following of anticipation before it even like has hit the market and stuff like that. And you're just on very strict timelines and constraints. So you have budget limitations that you have to stay within, and you have timeline limitations. So it's really having to be inventive and like think out of the box and be like, all right, cool. Like, how am I going to hit this stuff that marketing is already now hard pushing? Like, okay, there's the date. The writing's on the wall. But you have a customer base that's expecting a certain level of quality and a certain level of product to come out, and you have to hit those timelines. So it's really about being inventive and thinking of new ways to do things and getting creative and kind of coming out with it. So those are definitely the biggest challenges that come unveiled. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love inventing things. So I like the fact that you like the challenge and come up with the idea. So that's hard to find. Anyone who works with you is definitely lucky to have that ideation standpoint. At EA, you led strategic initiatives that integrated AI into product workflows. What was the turning point that convinced you that AI just wasn't a buzzword, but a real operational game changer?
So I mean, I've seen AI coming along, yeah, through EA and through other companies I've done after that, where it's you're starting to see automations used to be all about writing code in C sharp or Python or whatever to do complex manual tasks or whatever, and you do them programmatically through repetitive stuff. But once you started getting into the realm of stuff actually doing like a predictive analysis or generative analysis, where you're no longer having to write the code for it, but you're just giving it kind of like almost like buzzwords of like, hey, I want you to do this thing, and then it starts acting on it, is when you go like, okay, cool, we're stepping into a different realm of automation.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. It's setting the motion properly from the go. You're almost building a robot, it feels like, that's going to just systematically do what you need. Looking back at your career journey, like what principles have remained constant even as the tools and tech has evolved?
The constant principle, and it's the thing that I love that I get to bring forward now to the smaller business owner group, is that aspect of like, how do you automate something that was a manual repetitive workflow and really save costs out of it? I've worked on some of these companies or games or whatever, where I started out the project when I was initially brought in with like, hey, you're going to get this many engineering group, or you're going to have this many like people to work with. And then that budget got pulled way back, and it's like, no, now you have to do it with half, or you have to do it with a quarter.
Oh
And
my
so
God.
part of that inventive process became like, okay, the scope of work hasn't changed, but now we have to do it with way less people than we did before. So now we're going to have to use automations. We're going to have to use, code in inventive ways to do the same amount of work with less time. And
Yeah.
especially now when I go into companies and I talk with people, like I tell them for my business is like, look, I can guarantee somebody, if you give us the bandwidth to do it, like we're going to save you money, and not like a little bit of money, like a lot of money, you know.
Yeah, yeah, no, construction guys definitely don't want to hear that half the crew's not showing up for the day because there's no way they're going to be able to do it for half the time, let alone the cost. But so AI definitely will absorb that lift, so which is nice, which kind of turns us into the conversation topic here. How have emerging AI tools most fundamentally shifted the way product teams operate today compared to even 5 years ago?
I think that the most interesting scope I can say with that is they've given the everyday user access to things that used to purely be done programmatically. So you can kind of get your foot in the door without having any coding background. The one caveat I'll put around that is a lot of people I do see using AI stuff as like a band-aid of like, oh, I can do stuff now that I used to not be able to do, but without understanding kind of the repercussion side of AI, where it's like you still need to understand how these things work and integrate with your systems. Otherwise, they can cause some negatives as much as they're causing benefits.
Interesting. Right? We'll have to have another podcast about the negatives of AI because I never heard of that one. From your experience, what do you see? Where do you see the biggest ROI in implementing AI in the product lifecycle? Is it ideation, which you talked about, development, QA, or deployment?
Um, Ideation, it definitely has some good throughputs they can do there. What you just have to remember with a lot of, especially like the off the shelf ones, and you're not getting into like a custom model, is that these things have all been trained on the same type of data. So their ideations that they're giving you are only as strong as the inputs that you're giving them. So if you give them a very top level ideation, it might have the exact same output as your competitor has if he gave it a very similar ideation. So you just have to really be very granular with what you want to get to, and realize that this thing is just trying to get you to your end goal based on the inputs and like the decision making that you're giving it. But it can definitely take a lot of time off of that process.
Yeah, it's all about what you feed the machine, right? I mean, it's only as smart as the intel put in, and there's no real history or cache of information. So you better tell it what's going on. Yeah. How do you balance AI-driven automation with creative human elements of product design and innovation?
So the way I like to do a lot of my stuff is I don't use AI as the focal point. Is like I like to use core software that I know has worked for automating big companies and big projects or whatever throughout my career, and we use that as a foundation, and we use AI as just a top layer of like, this is where we're going to get the surface level inputs that are then going to feed this. So you have your core automation still being reliable, like programming code that's doing the work for you. And then where there would normally have to be a human that would start that software off, or where would give that software that initial input, now you're using an AI layer to feed that initial software input, or that initial like startup
Yeah, no,
from
dude,
there.
that's
So it's kind of
nice.
working in the two pieces.
That's nice that so could you use their existing system, or do you come in and recommend something that's not familiar to them, or is it pretty common in construction to use the same software backends?
So, unfortunately, for a lot of not just construction, but a lot of small business owners in general, is there's not a lot of tech systems in place.
I
It's
see.
one of the things that I talk to other business owners about. It's like I feel like tech, websites, SEO, all of this stuff, automations are like, these are essential pieces of your company. And unfortunately, all of these aspects are like the last thought for a lot of
Yeah,
business owners, because they're costly and stuff, like they're always viewed as costly. And so that's like, that was a large part of my initial like vision for this company, was like, well, let's take that costly, that kind of unfortunate like last thought of all of these tech systems that I just mentioned, whether it's, building a website properly, instead of using some cut and paste thing, or like paying some company thousands of dollars a month for SEO work. And that's really basic programming work. This isn't hard stuff, and automations are the same layer. So it's really like all these systems should be integral, and they don't exist for a lot of companies. So I kind of come in and we build up a core tech foundation,
Nice.
and then maintain it so that their business then can kind of run on more autopilot, and we build that out so it's as much or as little as the company wants. Some people are more tech affluent, other people are, they've been around a lot longer than before the internet, even was around, and so they want to deal with as few amount of tech as possible. So it's really integrating the tech that's a solution for them.
Yeah, I didn't know if maybe you had some construction background experience or something, because many teams they struggle with trust and adoption. And when introducing the AI, how have you navigated the cultural or mind shifts internally?
I mean, fortunately, in at least the space I'm in right now, where I'm a member of like a lot of construction groups in Central Florida, shout out to any of my GOBA people or whatever that have seen me around at every single event. It is now like you get some repertoire in the industry where I've worked with a lot of big builders, I've worked with a lot of people in different construction disciplines and stuff like that. So now I've kind of earned a seat at the table, so to speak. But for them, really, it is just showing them the value of it. And a lot of, construction companies have the same type of tooling. They use the same type of PM software. They use the same, kind of back-end infrastructures or whatever. So a lot of these companies play nice or whatever. They'll give us API access and stuff like that. And so then it makes it really easy to integrate with tools they have. And then the ones they don't, sometimes those are the ones where, I talk to the company and say, hey, how would you like your own tool? And we get rid of that tool altogether, and we'll build you something that's unique to you.
Oh, that's awesome. So custom development. And I know you you seem like on the fly vibe guy. I don't mean to use the word vibe coding, but got the human element to
Yeah.
the aspect of customization. That's hard to find. A lot of people can't do that. It takes a genius, in my opinion, to be able to come up with something right there on the spot. That's usually the best work, honestly, because nothing works out of the box. Usually, that's what I've seen.
Yeah. Yeah, no, true. And that's what you have to realize is with like a lot of big SaaS companies and these softwares or whatever that are just off the shelf, pick this up and plug it in.
Yeah.
You can't develop tools that are going to fit every puzzle piece,
Right.
And stuff like it doesn't exist. There has to be some element of tailoring it to your personal needs. And so some companies it works better for, and you can just integrate and they're like, yeah, you know what? That's 90% of what I need. I'm good. But other companies, it's like pulling only like half their levers. And at that point, it's like, well, what do you want? And whether it's like a custom CRM or a custom like SaaS solution and project management or whatever, that's when you can really get in there and with them and just be like, okay, what's your vision? How would you like this to work? And then we just make that.
That's rad. So what AI tools or platforms have genuinely impressed you lately, and why?
There's a lot of them that are really impressive. Without going down a Skynet rabbit hole, is the stuff that gets really interesting to me now is if you're starting to look at, and I don't have to work with this personally, thankfully, so I can just enjoy it, is looking at like the video throughputs.
Yeah, those are crazy.
You're truly getting an aspect where it's like, yeah, I don't trust what I'm seeing anymore. Like,
yeah, the Jaws like eats the Carnival cruise ship. You're like, what the hell? You're like, how did that happen?
Or even like ads, like you'll see like an influencer doing a thing or what, and you're just like, might be a robot, might 100% be a robot. Like, and you can't fully trust everything you're seeing anymore. I'm a Google business partner and stuff like that, and so I have like full memberships into like watching the VO3 stuff and everything, where it's like, yeah, you're not far off from just an average person like me making my own movie.
Right.
From the ground up. And it's not that far away to where you can really be like, oh yeah, within 6 months, I can probably, release a film if I really wanted to, type of thing, and that's the part where I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think where it got faked for me is one time I saw a cruise ship going into a port and the whole front of it fell off before it hit the port. And I'm like, I think the AI missed the mark. It should have waited a little bit to make the thing happen. But that's when I was like, no. But I've seen some other good stuff and it gets a lot of views,
Yeah.
They're using AI to get like, yeah.
Definitely sent my wife videos before and she's been like, that's fake. And I'm like, yeah, it got me. It got me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I fall for it all the time. I believe everything. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. That's a unicorn. Oh, look at that go. My wife's like, no, you're really somewhere else, Space Cadet. So, as we wind down here, looking ahead, how do you envision AI shaping not just products, but like the structure and strategy of the tech teams in the next 3 to 5 years? Because it could replace people, they say, but maybe not, maybe so.
So I look at this the same way as I kind of have looked at any tool that's come across industries, you know, and I've seen lots of big companies that people have heard of now, like they didn't exist. I'm sure, you know, like I mean, there was a time when Facebook wasn't around, and now it's here, you know. But like when I was in high school, everybody was on MySpace, and
Oh,
that's what it was, you know. And you
vanished.
watch tools and stuff evolve, and that's the same as like AI. AI is a tool, and as far as it replacing people, I don't see it being like a case of like, oh, it's going to replace everybody. I see it's like it's going to replace the people that don't do their due diligence to learn and to kind of learn to work with it. It's going to be part of your life, the same as like when the internet came along. I knew
Mhm.
people that were averse from the internet, and it's like, well, it's going to be part of your life. You have to learn to accept it, and you have to learn how are you going to integrate it into your business? How are you going to adapt to this stuff? And it's as long as people are willing to do that, I don't think it's going to take anybody's stuff away at a smaller level at least. And it's obviously there's always going to be companies that just look to cut corners and costs and stuff like that. But at a large scale, I think if you learn to adopt the tech, you learn how to use that technology to improve what you do, then I think you're good.
Yeah, adapt or die. That's pretty much how it works. James, this has been an incredible conversation. I really appreciate you sharing such deep, thoughtful insights on how AI is not just changing tools, but reshaping team strategy and product development from the inside out. For our listeners, if you're leading a tech team or thinking about how to evolve your product strategy in the AI, take notes from leaders like James who are walking the walk. Thanks, James, again, and thanks to everyone tuning in to LabStream AI. Until next time, keep innovating smart.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, James.